Hey you guys, welcome back. Dudes, dudesettes, all the people in the internets. This morning I'm doing a quick warm-up before I get into the wonderful world of illustration and my personal business. But this morning I'm going to do really quick little sketch of a cat. You know, I get a lot of requests for different types of animals, and cat happens to be one of them. So we're just going to do a really quick cat sitting, having a little bit of attitude. Start out with our line of action here. Hope everybody's world is treating them well. Working on Bristol board today, just so you guys can see pretty well, and I'm using a cool gray 50% Prisma marker to start, and then I'll move on to what I've been using recently is basically a color pencil, and you guys can see how I define the line for that. Just get the tail up here. This isn't based on any specific cat, just doing a real quick to show you, you know, how fast, you know, you guys can do something like this and get a great, you know, a really good result, and not have to put too much effort into it, you know. Okay, so let's go ahead and start defining the anatomy a little bit better. You know, it helps, it really does help to know a little bit of anatomy. And the more you know, it's just like knowledge. The more knowledge you have, the better you'll be at something. You know, just like, I'm not going to sit there and advertise that I can do somebody's taxes if I've only done taxes like once or twice in my life. Or I'm just, you know, I just got out into the accounting world and I haven't practiced at all in understanding the laws of, you know, of taxes. You know, it just makes sense. The more knowledge that you have is the better. So basically what I've done is I've mapped in a little bit of the body structure. Now I'm going to move on to the head. Typically what you want to do is the head first, but I got kind of caught up in doing, you know, some of the stuff over on this side of the equation. And that's kind of what drawing is. Drawing is finding your way and finding your path of what works for you best. And, you know, I find that a lot of times I'll start doing stuff, especially whenever I'm doing stuff in my personal life. And I like to experiment a lot, right? I like to experiment with different tools. I like to experiment with markers and crayons and pens. And the same thing happens with whenever it comes to doing digital illustrations. So for those of you guys who visit my channel, you know that I'm a professional illustrator. I've been one now for about 20 years. And basically what that involves is, you know, working for a living as an artist. You know, I don't sit there and do t-shirts on the side of the road and airbrush stuff. I don't, you know, I don't sit there and sell pictures on the side of the road or in the mall or anything like that. I get hired by large companies to do toys and concept design and really mold a look for what they're trying to sell product-wise. And I'm more or less what's called a generalist, if any of you guys know what that is. I have a lot of capability in a lot of different areas, but I don't specialize in one. Like, I'm not a storyboard artist specifically. I have the ability to do storyboard art, but I don't specialize. You can't, you know, I'm not classified as what we would refer to as a storyboard artist. Same thing happens, you know, with regards to like 3D work. I do 3D work, and I've done a lot of 3D work in sculpture, but I wouldn't be considered a 3D, quote-unquote 3D artist. It's just one of the things that I put inside of my artistic tool belt. You know, Jake Parker coined, for those of you who don't know who Jake Parker is, he's a wonderful illustrator. He is the creator, I believe, of Inktober. So those of you who do Inktober and didn't know where it came from, it actually came from a person, and that person is Jake Parker. And, you know, he put a challenge out there on the internet a few years ago. And I equate Jake to kind of being like a, he's a great artist, comic book artist. He's done, you know, character designs for film. you name it. And he's just a really great illustrator. I kind of equate him to being kind of the philosopher of the illustration world. You know, he's a great artisan, but also he's got a lot of really great experience. You know, things that he passes along to, you know, his viewers of his channel and so on and so forth. And I highly recommend, you know, you guys visiting him. Just look up Jake Parker. Very easy. He's on Instagram. You know, he's a very wise person. But he talks about the artistic tool belt. And, you know, going through life, you put things in the tool belt maybe as an experiment, and it doesn't quite work out, and then you don't really use those things as much. But you're always constantly adding and subtracting things from the artistic tool belt. You know, maybe there's a skill that you haven't used for a while that's in there, and then maybe you edit it a little bit. So there's a lot of editing going on. Always learning, always doing things to help you better yourself as an artist, whether it's add a new program, whether it's watch a tutorial, you know, experiment different types of media, you name it. It's one of those things where you have to look at it and think, you know, you don't know everything. That's a really important factor as an artist. So now I'm on to redline. Now I'm using my Koh-i-Noor pencil today, and this particular pencil is not erasable. So I'm just basically going to go in and I'm going to have you know, a little bit of fun with it. So I'm going to really kind of define these lines a little bit better. Right? And I'm not, now I could use, and I've got a myriad of different tools, and none of them are really my favorite. I do like using this a lot because it shows up really well on the camera. And it is smooth and it doesn't smear a lot, so that's important for me too. I don't like things to smear. You know, and I do use, you know, like your Blackwing pencil. I do like Blackwing pencils a lot. Give him a little bit of eyebrow up here. He's got that eyebrow going up. He's got those two going up. And this is a drawing that I would use maybe as a, you know, a preliminary base drawing to maybe explore a character design. You know, I get asked by my primary client a lot of times to match style. And for those of you who ever tried to do that, matching style means you take an existing popular style or a style that, you know, maybe that particular client has asked you to do, and you match it. So you have to match the line weight, you have to match the proportions, you know, and be on model. That's a terminology used in the business to keep your particular rendering or character on style, like a style guide. So there are style guides in the business too that you have to follow if you're going to match a particular character or style. You know, Disney style guides. You have Mickey Mouse, you have Goofy, you have Donald Duck, and whenever you look at these style guides, they're in different poses, they're in different expressions. So it gives you, as a product creator or an artisan working at these big companies, the opportunity to understand who the character is. And of course, you don't understand who the character really is until you see them in action, such as in an animated feature or maybe in a cartoon. So a lot of times you'll see somebody that does these characters in these style guides, and then it's missing something. It's like, what is it missing? Maybe the gesture doesn't work right. Maybe the pose doesn't work right. You know, and a lot of times what they need to do is to go in and they need to see the character in action. They need to hear the character so it gets in them. That's part of the character process, that you know, the character development process that you really need to start investing in yourself. And that means reading about the character, seeing the history of the character, you know, such as Mickey Mouse. So I did, whenever I worked over at DDG, and that's Disney Design Group, for those of you who don't know what that is. I worked at Disney Design Group for about 2 years over in Orlando, and I had the opportunity and the wonderful, it was more than an opportunity for me, because I had grown up drawing this particular character, and I love drawing him. So Mickey Mouse, and I got to do a new, quote-unquote, new style version of Mickey Mouse for the guys over at Walt Disney. And it was the Mickey Edge program, and I got to infuse a little bit of edge into Mickey, right? So what I had to do, basically, because they didn't want him to look like the modern Mickey, but then they wanted to infuse the 20s and 30s pie-eyed Mickey. And then they also wanted to have some fun of the 50s Mickey. So all these Mickey Mouses, I had to learn. I had to look them up. I had to look at all the style guides and existing art that was there. And I had to learn the nuances of who Mickey Mouse was and things he did do and didn't do. And then they didn't want to, the art director and the direction of this particular program, they didn't want to fall into that, kind of normal, not normal, how do I put it, that the stereotype that Mickey Mouse, being a goody-goody, and he didn't have any attitudes. They want to invest or infuse a little bit of attitude, and based on my portfolio, the director saw a potential. And so I had to learn Mickey Mouse. I had to learn him. Even though I'm drawing him, it's a little bit different whenever you draw him for the guys over at Disney, because they know they're Mickey Mouse. And that's one of the things that a lot of times we as outside people don't really understand how things work in these studios. And I got into that studio environment, and I had to listen and learn. I had done a lot of character art, and I had done a lot of character design, but again, whenever you're doing stuff for a company, trying to match their particular style, trying to do stuff for them of a character that is an icon, that was the first job I did at Disney. I stepped into developing a look for a character that had been around for so long, and almost 100 years. And that was my first job at Disney. And I didn't have any quote-unquote Disney training as a character artist, so I stepped into it, doing stuff. And, it was so much fun. Drawing something that I had, looked at and watched through my entire life. It was just, I can't even explain the joy that I had doing that particular character at that time. Were there some speed bumps here and there? Yeah. But overall, I mean, gosh, it was awesome. I also had the opportunity to do, the Fab Five in a specific style. That really old school, if you look at some of the Disney shorts that are on Disney Plus right now, I think my daughter was watching them. She was watching Steamboat Willie recently. And back in the day, the characters didn't look, the characters meaning the Fab Five, and they call it the Fab Five. That's just a reference to the, you got your Mickey, you got your Minnie, you got your Donald, you got your Goofy, and your Pluto. That's the Fab Five. Then of course they added Daisy, and some of the other things later on. But the Fab Five, the core, that's kind of the crew. I got to do, design some really cool toys, which was awesome, for Shanghai. And back whenever Shanghai was kind of in redevelopment. And gosh, that was another dream come true. And then, I got to work and do stuff on Star Wars, and I got to do stuff for Pixar, and I got to, and I kind of, again, being a generalist, which is what I am, I got to do, pins, I got to do package design, I got to do toys, I got to work on the racer program, and going in and doing all these really high-profile things as a contractor was very rare. I mean, a lot of the inside art was done by their in-house illustrators and graphic designers, and whenever you do character art, you see, Disney, it's like a fragmented. You don't have a whole team full of generalists like me, people that can do pretty much anything. You have graphic designers, you have illustrators, you have 3D people, you have packaged people, you have people that have their strengths, and a lot of times you don't step out of your box. But with freelancers, it's like you pick up all the riffraff, right? And the experimentation stuff. And if it doesn't work, then it's not a huge deal. So that's what I did. And, developing a character like this is very similar to what I did at Disney, and working and doing things on an established character and having fun with it and experimentation. And you got to remember, this is one of the things that I think a lot of excuse me, artists and character artists in general forget is to have fun. Oh my gosh, I tell people so much. You know, one of the things that you have to do, especially if you're doing art, is golly, dude, have some fun. You know, experiment a little, mess up. That's what the sketchbook is for. You know, I don't show, generally speaking, I don't show my sketchbook. I have these that since I'm so fragmented in my thought, you can hear it by the way I'm talking. I get these ideas, and I get so many ideas, and they come at me a million miles an hour. And that's why I've got this set up here on my drawing desk, because I'll sit down and I'll draw, and then I'll rip it off and I'll draw again, and I'll rip it off and I'll draw again. And then whenever everything's said and done, I take pictures of everything and I assemble them in a digital portfolio or sketchbook. But, you know, encourage you to take that sketchbook and, gosh, just experiment, man. Have fun. Mess up. That's the important thing. Don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to experiment, screw it up, and just end up, you know, finding out your shortcomings and then realizing, gosh, I need to work on that. You know, I need to work on that section. And that's, gosh, that's one of the biggest things I tell beginning artists and illustrators is don't be afraid to experiment. You know, the drawing that you're doing is not going to be the best drawing in the world. You know, and I still haven't landed on my best drawings. You know, I'm still plugging away at these preliminary drawings and illustrations that I love to do. And you know, these are the things as artists and as you know, creators that we need to always remember is have fun. You know, have fun. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to have it like she's you know, fixing to belch. So that's what I'm thinking in my brain. It's going to be a belch and trying to hold it. So, you know, whenever we belch, we're like, and our eyes get really big. So you're going to have these wide eyes. You know, the pupil's going to be really small. You know, it's a 3/4 view, so you're not going to see the same shape in this eye as you are this eye. So this eye is going to be smaller, and abbreviated is going to be more of an oval because it's turned. If you ever take a circle, or not a circle, if you ever take like a coaster, this is a really good example. A coaster, and you put it flat in front of you, it's a circle. But when you start to turn it, and you turn it sideways to a 3/4 view, that coaster becomes an oval. So that's what happens right here. That eye becomes an oval, and we've got this cheek that comes up, and it kind of shapes around. It's big, like this. And you got that, kind of comes around, and then we've got this nose right here, right here. And what's really cool is I've drawn my own first model right here. So this first model, I can now do views based upon this model. So this is how turnarounds, well, yeah, this is how turnarounds are done. But model sheets, you just start experimenting with the forms. You're experimenting, and again, with these eyes being large, we're going to have the eyebrow really high. Okay? See, I've got these eyebrows. This one comes up right here. It even breaks the plane. And this one comes up right here. Okay? So with these eyebrows coming up, because again, the eyes expand, and they're not squinting down, and we don't have these muscles coming in to be sad. They're surprised, because there's a giant burp coming. Okay? Get a burp! Okay, so we're going to have this come up. We're going to have that eye come like this. Okay? And two, I see a lot of times whenever people get into the minutia, and now we're at a stage where we're like, okay, I'm going to start rendering it. Don't do that. Right now is a time for you to just shore up some of the forms, think about your light, think about the character attitude, and start pushing and pulling some of those areas that you think can be pushed and pulled. Like here's that cheek that comes up, right? And I'm going to have it, again, since it's really big here, I think it's going to come up a little bit right here. And two, I'm going to accentuate it by pulling this in slightly and darkening this line. So what that does is it gives you a nice round form right here. And again, I'm thinking form, I'm thinking feel. Okay? So now we're going to come down here. Okay, have that neckline come down like that, and I have it come out, and it comes out slightly, and then again it's going to come in. And what that does is it really just it accentuates everything that much more. Okay, here. Okay, here, like that. And even this, guys, this, I would probably redraw this and push it. I would push it that much more because I know there's more in there, right? You know, I'm not saying don't be satisfied with the drawing that you do. I always refer again back to Jake Parker. Jake Parker said this is his quote, and he said, finished, not perfect. That means you finish something and you're done and you walk away. Could you go back to it and make it absolutely perfect according to your version of perfect? Yes, but the reality is you have to balance the investment of time with the finished product. This morning is not for a client. This is called personal development. I sit down and I develop things in such a way, and get some whiskers, kind of crazy whiskers, that I understand and get my hand moving for the day. See, I've got to go back to my desk here in about 5 minutes, and I got to sit down for quite a while, and I've got to think. Client, right? I got to think art. I got to think design. I have to think toys. I have to think all of these things, right? And if I start my day without connecting my brain with my eyes and my hand, there'll be a challenge. So I work out all of my issues in the morning on these fun little warm-ups that get my hand and all of these things connected to me, right? Right? So that is what I wanted to show you guys today. I have worked a little bit on Slimer. You guys know, if you follow me, that I've been working on Slimer for a while. I haven't quite finished the turns because I've been so busy. My daughter graduated yesterday from her college program. So I had to do that, and then I've had a ton of stuff to do for my toy client. And then, of course, it being summer, I have to do stuff with my kids. So my apologies for not getting the Slimer thing done in a timely manner. So we're going to go ahead and have this fur come down right here. And we're going to go ahead and give a little bit of indication of shadow. I'm not going to go in and, do all that. I'm just giving a little bit of indication of shadow to help shore up and define the form. That's it. So I will be done with Slimer soon for the turnarounds, and I'll go ahead and I'll color that in for you guys to show you the process of me coloring it in. And again, it's just a really quick block in for Slimer that I'm doing that eventually I'll bring it into ZBrush and I will start the modeling process. And again, it's not for a project, for work. This is just for fun to show process. Okay? So hopefully you guys got something today in understanding my process and why I do warm-ups in the morning, and also character development, right? If you start developing a character, start asking yourself all the questions. Another great artist that I follow on YouTube, gosh, what is his name? I know his last name is Kanuga. Trent. Okay, Trent Kanuga is a game artist. Has been in the game industry for, 20 years, and he's wonderful. He's a great quick sketch artist. He works in Sketchbook Pro, Photoshop. He's done stuff 3D and Blender. I'm not sure if he's done ZBrush. But what makes him great is him understanding how the game pipeline and the art pipeline works. And he's just really good at drawing. Go find him on Instagram, Twitter, and of course he sells stuff on Gumroad, and he's just a really great artist to listen to. And he's practical, man. He's like, you want to get a job in the game industry, and be a really great banging game artist, I'm going to tell you how to do it. And he does, and he tells you how he did it, and he tells you how hard it is and how hard to work it is, and how they're that job can eat your lunch, and how pretty much any of these art jobs can eat your lunch. That means take you over and basically destroy your health, destroy your family, and eventually kill you very shortly if you don't balance that art that art life. So again, thank you guys. So the two artists that I mentioned today are Jake Parker. Go visit him. He's awesome. And Trent Kanuga. Kanuiga, I believe. And he posts videos on YouTube all the time, and he's wonderful. And Jake posts occasionally. He's like the art philosopher, and I'm sure he's super busy. Also, I want to plug another guy that I follow, Will Terry. You guys are pretty familiar with Will Terry. He's putting out a book that I highly recommend you go visit. Look on Kickstarter. It's What They Didn't Teach Me in College. An illustrator's kind of a guide. I actually thought about doing one of these, and I still might. For the practical illustrator and artist, eventually, as soon as I can breathe. Anyway, thank you guys for visiting the channel. Like and subscribe if you like what you see. Please, please, please stay tuned. Got more videos coming. This is the third video I'll be posting this week. And I'll be, of course, developing characters and doing lots of stuff. I'll be doing teaching soon at an online course teaching kids about Procreate on the iPad. And I'm trying to get that together as soon as I can again, breathe from all my illustration work. So thank you guys. And whether or not you're being affected by this coronavirus, whether or not you're watching any of the media stuff, always know that there are two sides to the story, right? There's the story that's trying to manipulate you and change your mind, and then there's who you are as a person. Always define who you are as a person first, and art and drawing is a great way to explore who you are as a person because it shows expression. And I'm always one of the philosophies of bringing joy into the world. And that's what I love to do, bring in joy. I encourage you to go out and do something today that's positive. Go out and draw something. We're so complex individuals when we have this in our hands and we sit there and we feed on it. We're being programmed. I think, take a moment of your day, take 30 minutes, get outside, go draw something, and explore and listen to what you're supposed to be doing as an artist. And don't sit there and feed on social media and news all day because it'll drive you crazy. So, thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.